Hey class, this is Chanbury Lee. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my presentation. This is for MIS 653 Supply Chain Information Systems. I will be presenting on Labor Management System, also known as LMS today. So let's talk about LMS. What is LMS? LMS is the abbreviation for Labor Management System. It is a software intended to improve efficiency by developing process standardization and guidelines. LMS has mainly been used in the manufacturing and distribution industry because software parameter usually conforms to the work conditions in these industry. However, its principle can be applied to various other industries. So let's look at some of the main components for LMS. LMS has four main components. They are labor standards, technology, change management, and incentives. In labor standards, LMS work both to establish, enforce, and maintain standard. This usually entails defining individual job functions and processes within it. Similarly, LMS establishes a standardized time frame for how long an activity is expected to last. A common way to identify standard is through time studies where management or a third party times how long a worker takes to perform a particular activity. For technology, once standards are developed, they can be inputted into the LMS software. Through supplemental technology like handheld scanners, worker performance can be tracked. Thus, LMS can determine things like when the activities was started and completed. As far as management goes, employees and their relationship with managers will change as a result of LMS. LMS establishes open communication between employees and management. It creates an opportunity for open communication and constructive criticism to improve employee performance. Likewise, it can help managers distinguish engaged employees from those who aren't, therefore helping to weed out those who are not suitable for the company. The first three components are the primary components, but those businesses that successfully implement LMS also develop incentive programs to reward good performers. Incentives are a good motivator to provoking enthusiasm and performance. Next, let's look at implementation. There are some elements to consider when implementing LMS. The first one is strategy. Businesses need to identify why they want or need LMS in order to determine what outcomes LMS should be producing. Second, integration. Businesses also need to consider the installation and training of LMS software to establish standards. The complexity of installation really depends on a couple variables like the size of software, how many units need installations, and etc. Furthermore, businesses need to consider how much training will need to be done, who will train, and what material to train on. Third, management. As LMS is integrated, the number of moving parts will also increase, and standards are being established. As such, the volume of data being collected will multiply, so businesses will need to delegate individuals to keep track of those things. They will need to determine if it will make more sense economically to hire a third party or to rely on its own internal resources. Similarly, identify how to compensate for the added responsibility. Fourth, cultural consideration. Many businesses have an established culture, so they need to consider whether their current culture aligns with the LMS. Will the culture support LMS effort or work against it? If culture reorganization is needed, businesses will need to determine how they will achieve that. Fifth, maintenance. LMS requires ongoing maintenance because as processes and people evolve, a system will need to consider those moving parts. When this occurs, businesses will need to reevaluate the outcome of LMS to determine if it is still producing the desired outcome. Next, let's look at the pros and cons of LMS. As with many business decisions, businesses need to evaluate the costs of LMS against its benefits. Some of the advantages of LMS includes easy installation. Some software can be installed in as little as 30 minutes. But as I previously said, installation can vary depending on complexity of the software and the volume of units needing it. LMS is highly specific and detailed. The software can track a multitude of information and therefore can provide a vast amount of data to evaluate. It captures a large proportion of the work behavior and environmental conditions. In addition, possibly the most advantageous is its ability to establish standard. As LMS collects data, it can be analyzed to establish the standards necessary to increase efficiency. Despite the advantages, some of the disadvantages of LMS are that the first one here is that it can be very expensive. The level of sophistication plays a large role in the investment a company must make to adopt LMS. The more sophisticated, the more expensive the software becomes. But oftentimes, firms can get away with a simple system because they already have been collecting some of the data that LMS would be collecting. LMS is also faced with reluctance, especially from the workforce, because employees feel they are being micromanaged. Therefore, it is vital that management be transparent and expressing the need for LMS and its purposes. Another disadvantage is that an employee becomes increasingly dependent on LMS. Productivity might actually decrease. LMS has the capability of directing workers when to do activity, and such as workers don't exercise their own judgment in identifying work in absence of the direction of the LMS. Lastly, investing in LMS means businesses are investing in the continual evaluation of their processes. Because again, there are many moving parts in any singular process, and as those parts evolve, the processes will continually need to be evaluated to establish new standards. Let's look at the benefits of LMS. There are a multitude of benefits with LMS. The first one is establishing standards means businesses can identify how long an activity should take and therefore improve efficiency. This also translates to reduced labor costs. Therefore, businesses might not need to hire new employees or temp agents. They might discover that their current workforce is fully capable. Furthermore, incentivizing high performers encourages individual efficiency, which both contributes to the efficiency and a reduction in employee turnover. Employees feel more valuable because their efforts are being recognized more substantially than pre-LMS. Likewise, organizational morale could also improve. LMS also gives rise for an opportunity to evaluate organization culture to determine if it supports the firm's objective and allows for an open discussion on it of how to adjust it if it does not fit. So let's look at the SCORE model. Level 3 of the SCORE model outlines the organization of individual processes. Some of the specific components of LMS supports within the SCORE levels include processes and performance. LMS supports the assessment of companies' labor costs by evaluating its inefficiencies. Standardization is the primary way LMS improve efficiency because it establishes how things are done, when they are done, and how long it should take to complete a task. LMS uses standardization to establish best practices and protocols. Standard practice helps guide worker behaviors, and it pertains to operations, thus also contributing to efficiency. Lastly, as LMS reshape the way businesses do things, it builds the skill of its staff, which improves viability and sustainability. Employees grow individually and can therefore contribute more substantially to the organization. So let's look at other types of LMS. There are a variety of labor management systems that have been used traditionally. These are the productivity monitoring. As its name suggests, this system tracks the productivity at the individual and at the agency level in normal intervals, such as daily, weekly, and monthly. In addition, there's position control system. This system may resonate more with HR or human resource than any other departments. It manages the number of open or filled positions within the organization or firm. Lastly, staffing and scheduling system. This is probably the most widely used system All agencies rely on this type of system to some degree, regardless of the size of its workforce. This system coordinates staff availability and business needs. It is important to note that LMS does not replace any of these existing systems, but rather that LMS is a supplement to them. LMS builds on what these systems already do to improve the outcome from them. So let's look at the future of LMS. Where is LMS heading? What does the future hold for LMS? Thus far, LMS has been centered on manufacturing and distribution. However, there is great prospect to extend LMS principle to other industries. Service industry, for example, can benefit immensely from LMS. The moving parts in the service industry are vastly different than those in the distribution industry, so some major adjustment is definitely needed. The potential for expansion is great nonetheless. And these are some of the references that I used for this presentation. Feel free to look at them more in depth if you're interested. And for this part, some future discussions that we should all consider. LMS has been restricted to manufacturing and distribution. So the first question would be, can and how can it be applied to service industry? And additionally, the benefits of LMS are substantial, but when might these benefits be outweighed by its costs? Thank you so very much for taking your time to review my presentation. Have a good day.